Have you ever imagined what it'd be like if we didn't have trees? If beautiful wooded areas like this ceased to exist? Unthinkable, isn't it? Well, on the continent and even here in Britain, there are already signs that it's starting to happen. And it's largely due to the effects of pollution falling from the sky in the form of acid rain. Well, on this week's Splash Special, we have a report from a leading Sheffield conservationist.
Good afternoon, Sheffield Friends of the Earth. I'm afraid our acid rain campaigner isn't in at the moment. Should be in a minute. If you could hold on a sec. Oh, hello, Mark.
Hello, Sue.
There's a phone call from the City Planning Office for you.
Oh, right. Hello, Smart, will you soon? Hello. Yeah, right. For the demonstration tomorrow, we've got 3...
I became interested in the problems of acid rain after reading a magazine article on the subject, and at the age of 13, I became Sheffield Friends of the Earth's acid rain campaign organiser.
Yeah, it's his Friend of the Earth.
I'm testing the rain to see how acid it is, and I keep my testing kit on my grand's back garden on her shed, and I keep it there because if I put it on our back garden, either my sister will knock it over or the dog will drink it. After 15 minutes I take out the acid testing strip and then I fill in the log chart. Fill in the date of reading, the amount of liquid, the wind direction, and the weather conditions. Then I test the acid. Now this up here is normal water, and this down here is acid water, and this is around about pH 4.3, and that's about 800 times more acid than normal rain. As acid rain campaign for Sheffield Friends of the Earth, I take a lot of time out writing letters to people on Stop Acid Rain nail paper, and I've sent letters to people like Bob Cryer, who's the European Member of Parliament for Sheffield, Chesterfield and North East Derbyshire, and he sent quite a nice letter and he answered all the questions that I asked. And I got another nice one from Yorkshire Water Authority and asked them some questions such as things like, are you monitoring acidification in this area, and what effects is acid rain having on local rivers, lakes, etc. in the area? And they answered all my questions in detail, and I think that's really nice. And then I sent a letter to the CEGB, that's the Central Electricity Generating Board, who are the biggest polluters in Western Europe, and I asked them some really hard-hitting questions, and all they sent me back was a really patronising with compliment slip, and they're just trying to fob me off with things like that just because I'm 13 years old. I mean, I'm writing things like this. Out of my bedroom window, I can see the effects of acid rain quite clearly. This is Lecanora conisioides, and this is the only lichen that will grow on this gravestone because of the acid rain problem. All the other gravestones should be covered in a variety of lichens, but this is the only one that will grow here because of the acid rain. Five miles out of the centre of Sheffield we get a variety of different lichens. They are Parmelia saxatilis, which grows in a grey rosette, and Xanthoria, which is a yellow mass. These lichens are very sensitive to air pollution and cannot grow where there is sulphur dioxide. Lichen is one plant that does well here on the edge of Sheffield, but there is another plant which is the basis of the Peak District and is now endangered because of acid rain. This is sphagnum moss and it grows on the outskirts of Sheffield on the moorlands. This is the most important plant in the peat bogs. Because sphagnum takes its nutrients from the atmosphere, it takes in more pollutants than most other plants. And as a result, it is disappearing from the moors. Sphagnum is important because when it dies, it forms decomposed layers which form peat. This moss is dying because of the atmospheric and industrial pollution that has been going on for about 200 years. This has killed off the plants, and this peat is just not formed anymore. Because of this area around me has been declared a site of special scientific interest to help preserve the sphagnum moss. But unless something is done to curb the atmospheric pollution, this moss will disappear forever. I'm concerned about core exhausts and the way they contribute to acid rain. Because of this, I dressed up as an acid rain warden now. I'm giving cars parking tickets that have information about what they're doing to the environment.
Morning.
Do you realise the effect your car's having on the environment?
No.
Yeah,
What
well,
does it?
all those nitrous oxides from your exhaust are going up in the atmosphere. They're reacting with sunlight. They're mixing with water vapour. Bingo, you get acid rain.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's
didn't know
giving some
that.
right effects on trees, and it's killing fish and
Oh dear.
things all over the world. You should be ashamed of yourself. As part of the Forest Alert campaign, John Cray, a Sheffield conservationist and a friend, taught me how to teach the public into recognising acid rain damage.
Now, as you know, Friends of the Earth's acid rain campaign this year is actually looking at trees. And what we're going to be doing is taking out groups of the public throughout the whole year just to look at trees like this one, to make them more aware of some of the symptoms to look for, particularly with regard to their health and the effects of acid rain on that. So let's have a look at this one. You know what this one is?
No.
No. Right, well, this is a Norway spruce. Now, the way to tell whether a spruce is healthy or not is by looking at the age of the needles.
How do you do that?
Right. Well, what you do is you count back what's called the nodes.
Nodes.
The nodes. Now, a node is an area where you get lots of little side branches coming off a main branch, so that would be a node.
Right.
It's got a little sheath around it, see?
Right.
So if you just count back the nodes here, and we'll just see how far back we go before we start losing a lot of the needles.
That's one.
Yep.
2.
Yep.
That another one.
Yep.
3. 4.
Yep.
5.
Yep.
6.
Yep.
Is that one there?
That's one right up there. This is
Yeah.
7. And you can see at 6, it's starting to lose a lot of the needles. Now that means it's not that healthy. 6, and they should grow 6 to 8 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to see a healthy one.
Yeah.
Come on then.
Right.
This is starting to show signs of stress, despite the fact that it does look quite healthy overall. And one of the first signs of that in evergreens and pines and spruces are these little fierce shoots that you get off the main branches that they push out. It's a bit like the tree giving out a desperate attempt saying, hey, I'm suffering from some stress, and it's trying to combat that. Right, so you can see this tree, even though it's quite healthy, quite a lot of trees in this country are actually starting to show signs of dieback caused by atmospheric pollution. And one of the reasons for having Forest Alert is so that we can start looking at those signs now before it becomes too late.
This is European Year of the Environment, and I became interested in the problems of other countries, particularly Norway, and I wrote to their Stop Acid Rain campaign group. The Stop Acid Rain group very kindly asked me over to see the problem firsthand and visit various areas of pollution with Rune Skullestad. Rune has been as concerned as me about acid rain, and in one letter he tells me about his own particular problems. Dear Mark, thank you for a lovely letter, and your Norwegian is very good. And further on down the letter it says, from my bedroom window I am looking at a river, the River Lagan, and I hope one day we can swim in it again, as my father did when he was young. This letter's very moving and emotional, and it makes me want to do something in the Stop Acid Rain campaign. And I'm really excited and looking forward to going to Norway to help do something. Rune was rowing me to his family's log cabin, high up in the mountains near Kongsberg, where he comes every summer to fish, or at least he did. The acid rain has killed all the fish, and it was very hard to think that this beautiful lake was almost dead.
Will you hold the boat while I'm fetching the pH meter?
Yeah?
Okay.
Is that the pH meter?
Yes.
Do you want to put it there?
We can test the water here if you want. See?
Do you just take it out? A pH meter is a device used to measure the acidity of water and is much more sophisticated than the pH paper test I did earlier. I'll just take the thermometer out and test the temperature of the water.
Okay.
Yeah, this is about 10 degrees, this.
Okay.
Pretty cold. So have you?
Just take it and dip it to the water and
What's the reading, Runa?
about 485, I think.
485. Nearly the same as in my back garden in Sheffield. That's nearly 800 times more acid than clean water. It was hard to believe that the crystal clear water is a sign of the level of acid pollution. I asked Runa why he felt so strongly about acid rain.
It destroys the nature and the wildlife.
How did you first find the effects of acid rain happening near your home?
About 5 years ago, I saw the fish was dying and the eggs, and if they are acid water, the eggs are dying, so it's no fish growing up.
And how do you feel about having to lime your lake to keep it healthy?
It's bad because it's very expensive and you have to lime it every 2 years, so it's very bad.
And what do you think ought to be done to stop acid rain?
I think the pollution from all over the world must stop, and when they have done that, nature will become as it was for about 50 years ago.
So what are we going to do now?
We're gonna love the lake, and if
Do
we
we-
take this spade, I take this.
Right.
We use the spade to spread the lime out, and the knife to cut the
How long will it take?
about.
Runa wanted to show me how the lake was lined so I could understand what the Norwegians were trying to do to save their environment. The lime helps absorb the acid and keep the lake alive. "80% of southern Norway's lakes are badly affected, and 50% of all their pollution comes from Britain. It's no wonder the Norwegians call Britain the dirty old man of Europe." You know, I feel like I'm helping to keep all the fish alive now.
I should just open the sack so...
Runa explained that he would need 100 of these bags. That's 4 tons of lime every 2 years to keep this lake alive. And 3,000 Norwegian lakes are dying, and some of the larger ones cost £40,000 to lime, which is disgusting, considering this is someone else's pollution. They're fighting a losing battle, and it was described to me as like giving an aspirin to a dying patient. Am I doing it right?
Yes. It's fine.
Yeah. Trees in Norway are also suffering from acid rain, and Runa and I were lucky enough to be taken to the acid rain project near Grimstad in the southern part of the country. The project is a 5-year experiment to study the effect of acid rain, and its technical engineer, Rolf Högberget, drove us to the mountain site where the project is based. Rolf explained that this area was the most heavily polluted in Norway, and that the site was ideal for the canopy to be built in 1985. The idea of the canopy is to cover a wooded natural habitat and to prevent acid rain falling onto it. When it rains, the water is collected and stored in these tanks next to the canopy. It is then filtered in this hut before returning as clean rain to be sprinkled on the trees and plants. The whole system is automatic. When it rains outside, the system starts up and stops when the real rain stops. In order to measure the effect of acid rain, another identical canopy has been built 200 metres away. In this one, the rain is not filtered, so acid rain is returned to the trees and plants. In both canopies, the water that comes off the rocks is collected in small dams before being tested for its acid content. In the second canopy, the acid content remains fairly constant. But in the first canopy, the clean water has in the first year of the experiment produced a 30% drop in sulphur dioxide, the main constituent of acid rain, and this year a 50% drop. The clean water appears to be flushing out the acid pollution from the soil. One of the long-term aims is to see how the trees differ under each canopy, but that will take several years. And talking about rain, I asked Rolf if I could start the artificial rain machine.
Just open that door and push that switch there.
This one?
Yeah.
I found it very disturbing that this fantastic scenery is dying and that rivers like the Lagan, which goes through Kongsberg, were highly polluted. Runa, who goes to school in Kongsberg, invited me to his school to meet his classmates, who had very kindly made drawings for me to take back to Sheffield for my exhibitions. There are also going to be schools from Britain and Norway who will be twinned, so that information about pollution can be shared and hopefully bring pressure onto the authorities to do something.
Dette Mark Wilhelmsson, og dette klassen min. Vær så god.
Det gleder meg å hilse på dem.
Thank you.
I'm concerned and ashamed that much of our pollution travels and falls on Norway. And I feel really ashamed and responsible for your damage that's been caused to your lakes and your trees. And the pollution that's coming over is just ruining your countryside. So unless my government soon does something to stop this, there'll be just nothing left here. And I must thank you and the Norwegian Stop Acid Rain campaign for inviting me over and all making me feel so welcome. Coming to Norway has been a perfect chance to gain the first-hand experience and to help lime the lakes with people such as Runa and to find out what their problem is. And this has given me even more inspiration to join the fight and to help stop acid rain. Back in Sheffield, I knew how much I'd got to do. Norway had really opened my eyes and I'd seen the problems firsthand. It's up to me to spread the word through letters, exhibitions, demonstrations, television and newspapers about the problems of acid rain.